I think we've been very lucky indeed to be able to ensure that we saw the new Prime Minister. Literally, she had just taken possession of her room as the Prime Minister in the Parliament, in the House of Commons, after David Cameron had finished his last Prime Minister's Question Time, which we were also very privileged to be able to attend, sitting next to Mrs. Cameron and his children, and to then immediately go in to see Mrs. May, the new Prime Minister, and to be able to give her the feedback which was fresh of the day, of the issues that were concerning us, about what we're seeing and developing in Madrid, some of the things that are being said out of Madrid. Nothing new really there, but the vehemence with which some of the things are being said at the moment, I think it's important to translate for her directly and to be able to spend 20 minutes with her on such an important day. I'll tell you something more which your viewers may be happy to hear. She didn't end the meeting, I did, because after 20 minutes, having told her everything I thought she must know at this time, we could of course gone on and told her much more. She wasn't yet giving any indication of being ready to end the meeting, but of course we knew that within an hour or two she was going to be at the palace, that she had to deliver a message not just to the United Kingdom but to the whole world on the steps of Downing Street. And I more or less said that we're quite happy to now continue to provide the feedback to the next Minister for Europe, the Minister for Brexit, who we now know is Davies, but she told us that there would be such a department, and to come back to you as soon as we need to, which she was very welcoming of, but it was important that we let her get on with what she needed to do yesterday.
Well, quite a coup to have met Theresa May on the day of her official appointment. But also, can I read something into the fact that Nicola Sturgeon, the meeting took place in Gibraltar House, home soil, so to speak?
Well, look, I think you make your own luck to make sure that you have the meetings that you need to have. It takes a lot of work in the background, a lot of my team in London in particular working very hard to ensure that we can have those meetings and to ensure that Nicola Sturgeon wanted to come to Gibraltar House whilst she was in London doing other things. You will have seen on social media she was seeing Mark Carney just before seeing me. So it's not as if we were able to bring the First Minister down from Scotland to see the Chief Minister of Gibraltar. This was, of course, a mutually convenient time for us to meet. London is a place where we all have meetings, and it was the easiest place to arrange for a private meeting between her team and my team, and I was very pleased to be able to have that meeting. I think on any other day it would have been your headline that the First Minister of Scotland had met the Chief Minister of Gibraltar, and the opportunities that we are now able to see can arise, which, if I may say so, don't just relate to the situation in which we find ourselves in relation to the European Union. I think there can now be an opportunity to develop synergies with Scotland, whether or not we continue down the same path in respect of the European Union, something which we are exploring and where we have common interests that people are aware of.
And of course the content of the meetings in London and before that in Brussels.
Well, a lot of it had to do with the new situation, the new post-Brexit referendum situation. Some of it, of course, related to government business. My travel was planned as a result of government business, which had been left over from earlier meetings when I was in Brussels, I think 2 months ago. Time has become very elastic in the past 4 weeks. So I think about 2 months ago, to see people in the European Parliament and in the other institutions. I had a meeting with Mr. Moscovici pending. It was not possible for us to fix diaries at the time. I saw one of his cabinet. I gave them an indication of how important it was for me to see him. And therefore, the Brussels agenda was fixed around Pierre Moscovici having agreed to see me on Tuesday to talk about issues relating to taxation, etc., which is his responsibility in the Commission.
Ms May has wasted no time in appointing a cabinet, and I don't want to let you go before we actually talk about that. Good friends within it, Davies, Philip Hammond and Liam Fox. But perhaps that shocking announcement, what would you say to that, of Boris Johnson as Foreign Secretary?
Well, it's not something that I think should shock anyone, the fact that the Prime Minister is putting together a team, as she said it would, which would be...
You were not surprised when you heard Boris Johnson as Foreign Secretary?
I think that anybody who is surprised by things happening in British politics by now hasn't got over the past 2 weeks. So look, I think we have to work with the team that the Prime Minister puts together. She said she was going to put a team together to deliver a government that brought back together the whole of the Conservative Party. I think that's what she's doing. Boris Johnson is a big beast in the Conservative Party. Bringing him into the tent, I think, is the sort of decision I might have expected from Theresa May. For Gibraltar, you've mentioned David Davies, who was a very good Europe minister, very much a friend of Gibraltar in the mid-90s. You've mentioned Liam Fox, who, while State Defence, and even earlier and after, has been a good friend of Gibraltar. And Boris Johnson, who's writing on Gibraltar, people will by now have looked up, has been very pro-Gibraltar, and somebody who I think will stand up for the things that he believes in. And I think what he's said before about Gibraltar can give us an indication that he believes in our right to decide our future for ourselves and to continue to choose to be British. So given the times in which we are, it may be that he's actually probably the best possible choice for Gibraltar. And if I may say so, of course, an old friend of Gibraltar, Philip Hammond, Foreign Secretary, now going to the Treasury, which, as some people don't realise, is almost as important a department for Gibraltar these days, given where we operate in financial services, as the Foreign Office.